morning and welcome. Picture Radio News Hour. Joe Jaquin solo today. Jason had surgery on Friday. It went well. Talked to him yesterday. He'll be back. We'll see when. Maybe next week, possibly earlier. Just depends on how well he's feeling. It's always, the first day after is usually okay. They give you the nerve blockers and all that stuff. So yesterday, he's feeling pretty crappy. Probably going to feel pretty crappy for a few days. But all is well, so just an update there. He'll be back soon. In the meantime, you'll just get more of me. And how could that be a bad thing? Our toll-free number, 800-951-0592. The website at allamericangold.com. And, of course, the physical delivery of wealth insurance. That's what we do, gold and silver. We do some platinum and palladium once in a while. But primarily, right, gold and silver. This is a big week. This week we're going to have the Fed on Wednesday, so this two-day meeting. Everybody is anticipating that Jay Powell is going to set the table. I don't know that he'll commit, but rate cuts will be talked about. My guess is that they'll set the table for the possibility of the September cut, and then if they decide they need to back off of it, he'll give himself some wiggle room. But you can pretty much count on that. We're going to get a bunch of the Magnificent Seven reporting this week. Matter of fact, about 40% of the S&P this week. Of course, over half of that's the MAGA guys. We're going to get Apple and Amazon and Meta and Microsoft this week. It's also Jobs Week, so we'll get the JOLTS number. We'll get ADP number on Wednesday. Jobless claims Thursday. Government jobs number on Friday. So it is, by all accounts, a very big week. We'll also hear from the Bank of Japan. So we'll see how much money they spent intervening in their currencies. Of course, the Olympics going on, right? Everyone's trying to get that last vacation in before kids got to get back to school and all of the other things that they're talking about right now. They're thinking just on the jobs number, by the way, somewhere in the 175,000 jobs is what they're looking for. We did get earnings from McDonald's today. I guess no surprise, right? They missed. The consumer just can't afford Big Macs. I mean, let's call it what it is. When you can't afford it, you start cutting back. Cons, we talked about them last week. Looks like they're going to liquidation. So if you have a Cons in your area, you won't have it for much longer. Red Lobster is in the process of bankruptcy filings. They shuttered 99 stores. Looks like there could be a deal for the remaining stores, minus about 135. So yeah, it looks like about 230, 235 Red Lobsters to close. So in addition to the 99, and then worries about Rite Aid, are they going to be able to survive? They're in bankruptcy process right now. And then JCPenney's said that they're closing stores. We don't have a number of exactly how many. And Denny's, which they've been closing 50 to 60 stores a year. They announced more Denny's are closing. The fact of the matter is to be profitable, according to the Denny's CFO, stores need to make 20% more than they did just a couple of years ago to remain profitable. They haven't yet determined. I want to say that they've already announced 30 different Denny's closing, but he said, hey, we're working on identifying just exactly how many that is. I don't know how many that is. I mean, they got 1,500 Denny's out there. But yeah, so there's a lot going on. Of course, we have the election. Can't forget about that. who's Kamala going to pick as her running mate, if you want to believe the polls now, right? Everything's kind of, right, dead heat, pretty close. And again, it's only a handful of states. It's only a handful of states. I'll say what I've said from the beginning. And this is just where I've been at it. Don't get mad. Just what it is. He didn't win last time. Well, according to them. Why would it be different this time? Right? Why would it be different this time? I just, over the weekend, I don't know if you saw Donald Trump, very much crypto, everybody owned Bitcoin type thing. I don't love that, obviously, because unfortunately, for me, that just is the harbinger of digital currency. I actually got a call this morning. Again, one of the calls we're getting the most of anymore. What happens with a digital currency when it comes to gold and silver? I don't know if somebody's putting some crazy information out or if people are just getting scared by it. So when we get back, we're going to talk about what would change with the digital currency in light of Donald Trump's news over the weekend about Bitcoin, which let's just kind of say about digital currencies in general. Not only will we go over it for bank accounts, Fed accounts, gold and silver, a lot of other things as well. We're going to talk about that today. Stay with us. We're back here, Patriot News Hour. Joe Jaquin here, solo on this Monday. It's going to be a very, very active week this week. Right now, the volatile stock market, man, last week, crazy things were happening on Wall Street. Right now, the Dow's down 125 points. Had a big up day on Friday. The S&P's down. The NASDAQ is down. The 10-year note down 417. And again, it's going to be how dovish is Jay Powell going to be. Crude oil down again $1.50. Back down to $75. Kind of interesting, isn't it? Watching these crude oil prices, what does it say about the U.S. consumer? Gold and silver are down today. Silver right now at $27.34. We'll heat some silver prices up again this week. Continue to buy here, especially silver. We'll get to it later in the second half of this show about the paper shorting of silver that's happening right now. Gold's off $8 here, $23.75, and we've talked over and over and over and over, be more diversified. Listen, it's boom and bust, boom and bust, boom and bust. I didn't create that. That's what the Federal Reserve has done. Matter of fact, we're going to get ready to talk about digital currencies. What does it mean? What's going to happen? How are the things going to change? It's not going to come about until after the big crash. And this is why we tell you, at least check out our friends over at Y Refi. Not only is it a great thing, it's so funny. Student loan, Kamala announced, oh, yeah, we'll just forgive everybody's student. Of course, they only can forgive the federal student loan, which is a very small part of the student loan problem. People don't need forgiveness. What people need is a reasonable path to pay. And that's what Y Refi does. They've got so many people that are ready to pay on their private student loans that the banks have just kicked to the curb. This is why they can offer such great rates of return, up to 10.25% fixed rates of return. How good is their process? Because let's face it, not everybody can do it. Right? Matter of fact, a lot of them can't. Right? You know what? I took out all this debt. I didn't really get a good skill. I studied something I shouldn't have studied, and I'm working at McDonald's. Well, you're probably not a candidate. How good is their process? You know, during COVID, when everybody was told not to work, they still had, I want to say that, I don't want to overstate it, but it was like 97%, maybe it was even 98% of all of their people, because they allowed them, hey, you could take some time off, never stop paying. And before COVID was over, they were all back paying. This is how great of a job that these people do. But this is why they can offer you, the returns are incredible. 10.25%. Lock it in for 5 years, every year, year after year. You turn your income on, you can turn it off, you can compound it, you can do what you want to do. The big piece, though, not correlated to Wall Street, does not care about what Jay Powell has to say on Wednesday. They could care less. Check them out. InvestYRefi.com. That's the word invest, the letter Y, REFY.com, or just call them. I mean, that's just the easiest. 888-YREFI24. As you know, you got to have a minimum of $50,000. You can use an existing IRA. You can use it as income. You can do what you want. 888-YREFI24. So in light of Donald Trump yesterday, well, I think it was yesterday, maybe it was Saturday, talking about his affinity for Bitcoin and digital currencies. One of the few things I don't love about Trump, he's a central bank guy. He just is. I wish he wasn't. But, you know, he's already committed. Yes, I want to leave Jay Powell in his job if I win the election. I mean, kind of tells you all you need to know. But what's going to happen? What's the big thing? For gold and silver, let's start there. Nothing changes. So right now, if you buy gold and silver from us, what do? Well, you either put it on one of your credit cards, right? Visa, Amex, Discover, American, well, I guess that's Amex, MasterCard, you know, the big four. You write a check, you send a wire, or you come into our office in Colorado or Phoenix and pay cash, right? Those are your options, right? When you sell it back, right, depending on what it is, how much it is, right? Same process in reverse. We can send you a wire, write you a check, give you cash, right? Those are the options. When the digital currency comes around, you won't have those options. Now, will you still have credit cards? Probably yes, right? The banks will still issue those. Probably could still accept. Of course, that's digital, right? Will you write a check? I don't know for how long. Check writing will disappear. Take Australia as an example. They're already ahead. They're four major banks. If you open a new account, they don't even give you checks anymore. And most of them want check writing to end by 2027. Cash? No, that's gone. Right? Just can't use it. You'll be able to get paid. Mostly it'll feel like a bank wire. That's how it'll go. Now, the one, I guess, positive, we'll see if they do it. That's the problem, is it's cheaper. The reason why a lot of these companies buy Bitcoin, as an example, when you send a wire, God, you talk about something that's gotten crazy expensive. You know, I think when I first started here, a wire was like $15. It starts at 50 now. Starts at 50. And the more you wire, the more it costs. Yeah, believe it or not. I don't know why. It's not any more work. Right? I mean, what's the difference between sending 10,000 versus 100,000? One more zero on a keyboard? How about 1 million? What? Two more zeros on a keyboard? That's worth more money, but that's how it works. And when you use the blockchain, banks save a ton of money. They do. Now, will they pass that on to us? I have no idea. That I cannot tell you. But otherwise, things won't change. It'll be just like before, except the only difference will be you probably won't write checks and you won't pay cash. Everything will be electronic. Of course, on top of that, everything is stored, right? So there's a record for everything you do forever. This will work the same everywhere. Look at Target last week. Maybe it was 2 weeks ago. Hey, we're going to stop taking checks. Yeah, we're done with that. We're just not going to take them anymore. So when you think about what the future will be with a digital currency, first of all, a lot of banks have the ability to become unnecessary. And what do I mean by that? Well, essentially, if they decide to, which I think they're going to, because most of these, especially these, we've got, 3,800 really small banks. Really small. That only leaves, what? Another 500, 600, 700 banks. And of those, less than 100 of them have any real size. If you just said, hey, you got to have at least $10 billion in assets as an example, which that isn't very much money anymore. We'd have, I'll look it up in the break, but we won't even have 300 banks at that point. What would banks do? What would banks be used for? Housing loans, credit cards, auto loans, right? Stuff like that. They could still do that. Trading, right? People want to get, a bank CD or something like that, I guess. The vast majority of clients for the banks that would remain would be probably extremely wealthy people. I think they could get it done with 30 banks, just to give you an idea. I don't know that will be, but I think it will. Where will everybody bank then? Because, they talk about, the unbanked. These are, I guess, homeless people. These are people that sometime in the past bounced a bunch of checks at a bank, never paid them back, right? And now no bank will allow them to bank there. Right, these are the unbanked. Used to be the illegal aliens would be unbanked, but now they're all seeking asylum, so they can all open bank accounts. I mean, that's just not a thing anymore. But they could just simply have everybody of normal means. And what do I mean by normal means? Well, I don't know. They'll pick a number. Hey, if your average account is less than $20,000, right? You bank at the Bank of the Federal Reserve, right? They'll have a Fed Now account. Banking will be all online, right? You don't go into a bank. Your ability, for those of you that still get a paper paycheck, that will end. There will be no more paper paychecks in the future. Everything will be set up via, we'll call it direct deposit, but you'll have a Fed account where you pay all your stuff, right? And then your direct deposit will go in there. Your Social Security check will go in there, right? All that stuff will go in there. And the great part is, remember the last financial crisis. Well, the government's going to send all of us a check, remember? Oh, we're going to give everyone $1,500 or whatever it is. And it would take weeks because the Treasury had to go set it up, do all this stuff, blah, 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 before it finally would show up. Well, with Fed accounts, if they said today we're going to send everyone $1,500, well, guess what? Tomorrow you'll have $1,500. You will. And I'll tell you how great that is. As a business, and that'll be the other thing. I don't know if businesses, will they have to bank at banks? That part I don't know. But instead of waiting to get paid a day after on credit cards, 2 days after online, hey, you'll get paid instantaneously. Isn't that wonderful? What about all the bad, though? We'll talk about that next. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour here on this Monday. It's going to be a big week. And we've got, from Fed announcements to setting the table for rate cuts, jobs, 4 of the 7 Magnificent 7 reporting earnings this week. So there's no lack of things, right? Olympics, the election, right? All that stuff. There's plenty of stuff to go on. But don't take yourself out of the big picture of what's happening. As I don't know if you noticed, over the weekend, we're now over $35 trillion, which isn't really close to what the real number is. It's actually 42 because the Fed has $7 trillion. They just pretend like that doesn't count. Not to mention, right now, I think the Fed is sitting on losses. We're approaching $200 billion in losses as well at the Fed, but that's okay. Let's forget about that. I mean, why does that matter? Right? It's fine. And we're coming up on this crisis. Right? The Treasury, well, I forgot about that this week too. They're going to announce refunding notice. Right? They're going to want to. They need at least another $125 billion, but they actually need more. But they don't want to say it because if you go back to the beginning of the year. Remember, they did it in December, did it at the end of the year, then they did it again in March. But then they said, hey, we're going to go a couple of quarters before we have to do that again. Well, it's only been one. So what are they going to do instead? Well, apparently, legally, I guess, as long as they sell treasuries for under 1 year, they don't have to increase the other stuff. They're not supposed to do this. Of course, here's the problem. Why don't you want them to do it? Well, because it just rolls over. It causes big problems later. But since they don't want to admit how bad the problem really is, this is what they're going to do. Just so they can go 2 whole quarters without refunding. In other words, making it bigger, right? Already, do you know most of the auction sizes? Because like I said, it got to be over a year to count in the schedule. Auction sizes have risen almost 50%. Yeah, I know. It's crazy. And it's going to get a lot worse. But this is why the bust is coming. And we're talking about the digital currency. This will how they'll cover up thousands of insolvent banks. They just will. They're too small. Besides, Look how inconvenient it will be if you live in the middle of nowhere and you have to go to a bank. God, that's just inconvenient. Look at all the big banks. They're just shutting branches left and right. They can't close branches fast enough. Why? Because they don't want you in there. I mean, it's pretty simple. But what will it be able to do? Well, first and foremost, it'll track everything. That's part of when we talk about these chips. You know, they keep talking AI this and AI. It's really not about AI. It really isn't. It's about data storage. It's about blockchain. It's being able to track everything. This is the ultimate thing. Because one of the things, and I say this to people all the time, do you know who the Fed hates the most? It's all you people out there that keep hundreds of thousands of dollars in your bank account. Man, do they hate you guys. For all of you out there that, hey, I just hope I get to the end of the month and still have, $50, $100, $500, $5,000, $10,000 in my account. I hope. They don't care about you. They don't care about you at all. But, man, those of you that keep all that money in the bank, they hate you. Because you know what you're supposed to do with that? You're supposed to buy stuff. And they don't care what. Stocks, a boat, a car, a vacation, a house, what have you. Don't save it. With a digital currency where people's money's at the Fed, they'll now be able, think about this, all the money in these accounts will now earn a negative rate of return. Now, they talk about 2% inflation. That's what they like. Well, wouldn't it make sense to say, well, these accounts will devalue, and they'll probably set a limit too. Hey, the first 10,000, it's free. It's free. After that, we're going to whack it 2%. I'm going to do that year after year after year. And if 2% is enough, 3%, 4%, 5%, these are some of the. Now, at the same time, rates don't have to be zero anymore. They can have mortgages are 7%. Your Fed Now account's negative 2%. Oh, it's a great tool. It's so, so powerful. Forcing you to make a decision. Right? They tell you they only want you to save money the way they want you to save it. Of course, if you go to allamericangold.com today, the very first article, Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary. Now, why in the world would the Treasury Secretary to be qualified to talk about climate change? She's not. She's not. But that doesn't mean anything. She says, we need $3 trillion a year for climate change. That's what she said, $3 trillion a year. With a digital currency, they have the ability to start penalizing purchases. What kind of purchases? I don't know, any kind they want. You put too much gasoline in your cars. Your power bill was too high. You used too much water. You purchased too much meat at the grocery store. The list goes on and on. We'll talk about that. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour here on this Monday. We're talking about digital currency. I got another call today about it. Oh my gosh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen with my gold? Nothing. I mean, well, the price is going to be a lot more expensive because this isn't coming without a bus cycle. But it would be the abilities afterwards. But this is why when people start talking about gold prices, why are we all of a sudden so bullish? Why is everyone so bullish? You know, and people are talking like $3,000 gold's nothing. And everybody's out there saying, gosh, in 5 years, 10 years, gold's going to be, 5,000, 10,000, crazy stuff. Silver, same thing, crazy numbers. Because it's easy math. Because they know what's coming already. Today, $20 Liberties and Saints, I've got them both on sale. $2,550 if you buy just 5 or more. $2,525. I mean, gold's, what, $2,380, $2,385? $2,550. Liberties, you can mix and match. You want some Saints, you want some Libs, you want some of both, all pre-1933, right? That's the private gold. That's the gold you want. $2,550. 5 or more, $2,525 at 800-951-0592. But we are talking about this case, what's going to happen to the banks. Most of them will go away because there's just not a need. They have the ability with a digital currency to now have bank accounts have negative rates of return while still having positive interest rates out there. They have the ability to enforce climate change agendas, social credit score agendas. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you purchase too much of something, there's a penalty. And they just, right out of the account, there's no, oh, well, I'll send you a check next week. Yeah, no. Just fine, you're right there. Just take it right out of your accounts. They have the ability to ban items. Right? That's another important thing. Plus, not only does it give the banking industry, right, and the fascist, we're so close to fascism. And I know fascism, everyone just thinks, oh, but Nazi Germany and Hitler killed the Jews. No, that's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm talking about. Fascism, where big business and government essentially lie in bed together and randomly start enforcing things that normally shouldn't be allowed. Can't buy this gun. Can't buy that gun. Can't buy this ammo. Can't buy that ammo. Can only buy X amount. Right? Because guns are easy. Right? Same thing. Think about it. Oh, well, listen, now we'll prevent underage kids from buying alcohol and the vape, right? Because they'll have everyone. It's kind of like, hey, when you're born, here's your Social Security number and your FedNow account number. Yeah. What's your Fed account? What's your Fed account number? These are all things that are coming. Because the ability exists. And they will use it. Fear. Think about, before COVID, if I would have sat here and told all of you, 2018, hey guys, in a couple of years, everybody's going to wear a mask. There's going to be no toilet paper. And companies and the government are going to try to mandate that everyone's got to take a shot. Oh, by the way, and they're going to close the economy except for essential people. But don't worry, we're actually going to pay you more than what you were making at your job to not go to your job. All the bars in the country, they're going to shut them down. There's going to be no concerts. You can't go to baseball games, basketball games, football games, right? Can't do it. You would have said, oh, you're nuts. Come on. You're more nuts than I thought you were. And I already thought you were nuts. But it happened. And now it will be much easier for this to happen. But as far as life, most people won't notice a big change. Most people don't use cash. Most people, when they pay with a card. Whether it's a debit card, a credit card, right? It's how they do it. People don't write a lot of checks anymore. Right? They pay their bills online. So for a lot of people, it'll be a very small impact. Especially the younger you are, probably the less of an impact it will be. Because it'll just be, oh, that's how I normally did it anyway. It's what comes after that becomes the problem. When they start going to the control card for everybody. Patriot Radio News Hour, final segment when we get back. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour, wrapping up this Monday. Big $20 gold sale. Both Liberties and St. Gaudens, $2,550. If you buy 5 or more, $2,525. I guess I should figure out what that is. $12,625 if you buy 5 or more. Well, if you buy 5, you can buy more than that. You can buy 10, 20, doesn't matter. 800-951-0592. And we're talking about a digital currency. How would it affect gold and silver? It really won't affect anything. Now, if items get put on the naughty list, right, with naughty list, gasoline, red meat, guns, ammo, the list goes on and on and on. Maybe automobiles is going to be on that list. Gas-powered anyway, right? Negative Fed digital interest rates on your FedNow accounts. All of these different things, social credit scores. Well, saw you posted on Facebook the other day. Saw what you had to say, and, we just don't like it. Right? It was misinformation. We're going to have to shut your account off for a little while until you want to take that down. All these things are, not only are they possible, they're likely. Extremely likely. I think the other part, as you see, the homelessness is everywhere. It's so bad. It's so amazing. You go down to downtown Phoenix, you'll find, you have to want to look for it. But it's everywhere. If we think about people's inability to pay for things, we talked about the repo man, talked about credit cards, people getting booted out of their apartments in Phoenix. It's like, I don't even know, $6,000-7,000 a month. That never makes the news. Heck, I may be understating that. But programs where they'll tell you, hey, we're going to give you just enough to survive. But here's the rules to go on that. And they can dictate. You've got to, where you spend it, how fast you spend it, right? All of those things. In other words, hey, as long as you do what we tell you to do, be a good citizen, get the shots we tell you to get, buy the crappy food we tell you to get, right? Don't own a vehicle, right? Live in our 15-minute cities, and hey, we'll give you enough money in your account for you to exist. And I think we're going to see that here with this next crash, this end of so many middle-class jobs. This will be the future for America. I hope that helps. I know it sucked. I mean, that wasn't very bright. But I think that's the reality, at least for now. 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour. I'll be back tomorrow. Coming back, though, a great half-empty cup of Joe.